What's up, everybody? Jay Miller here, bringing another Productivity in Tech podcast. This is the show where I sit down with someone in the tech space and we talk about the thing that they are doing to help other people in tech. And again, I'm Jay Miller. I am a podcast editor, developer, automator, multi-potential light thing. We're still trying to get that intro down. And my guest today is Al Rodriguez. Al, how are you doing today?
Hey, great. How are you doing today?
I'm doing really good. Obviously, the people don't know behind the curtain. We've been trying some new software out. I got some new equipment, and it's been a headache just getting everything figured and reconfigured and all those things. But, you know, I'm glad that that's all over, and now we're doing a podcast because nothing makes me happier than talking with like people that I've had conversations with before on air and I get to learn more about. So the last time that I spoke with Al was on his podcast, and I will butcher the name. So if we can, Al, go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about your podcast and give the listeners a good feel for it.
Yeah. So, all right. So the show is called Developer Side Quests, and in it, I interview other software developers or anyone really, but about specifically about software development side projects that we work on. So, I try to get people of completely different types of things. I've interviewed, Jay right here talking about starting productivity in tech and all the types of things that he has to do there for software development wise for starting a side business. I've interviewed a handful of other people from just making a small little project for because they wanted to learn how something works, technology, and then up to off to someone else who essentially works on testing the security of websites and how that's his job. But he also just goes home and decides to have fun doing that to other websites too, because why not?
That sounds like someone you want to be like your best friend and not your worst enemy.
Oh yeah, definitely. But at the same time, it's also someone fun to talk to, right? Because I don't know about you, but like I love that style of stuff, like that concept, the security of things, and I love hearing the stories. But it's one of those things that every time I like peel back the curtain just a little bit to learn a little more, I just get on one hand a little overwhelmed with how much, but also depressed because it reminds me of how broken everything actually is.
Yeah, it's funny. Kind of a little tangent here. When during my time in the military, I had the opportunity to fly out of a C-130, which is like the most like iconic military plane other than like a B-2 bomber or something like that. And these are troop ships. These are designed to carry like people so that they jump out of them and stuff like that. Like it's an interesting ride. It's not very comfortable. And as we were getting ready to go onto the plane, I'm sitting there and I see like something flapping like on the side of the tail. And I look to one of the crewmen and I'm like, hey, what's that thing there? They go, oh, it looks like some of the duct tape got loose on the fin. And then he's like, all right, everybody get on. And I'm like, oh, wait, what? So...
Oh, you were on the ground at the time.
Oh yeah, no, we were getting on the plane when I saw the duct tape on the plane that I was about to get on. So yeah, it was definitely one of those moments of, I don't know if I feel comfortable doing this.
Well, I guess it worked out. So did they at least reapply the duct tape before going off, or no? Is duct tape just way better than I give it credit for?
So we called it 100-mile-an-hour tape. And the reason being is that it can withstand up to 100 miles an hour. Now, I'm sure that that plane was probably going faster than that. So I don't know. I didn't really want to look. I was just glad to be on land when we finally got back.
Oh, all right. Well, that sounds like a fun story.
Yeah. So we were talking. So you do a podcast about side questing, and you particularly you like spin it to have this side quest, uh, like D&D kind of feel. Where did that idea come from?
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess it's kind of jumbled with a couple of different things. I mean, the name of it, Developer Side Quests. And actually, that name was originally the name of my like personal blog site, and I thought, oh, this would be cool because I wanted to start a blog, and I kept seeing a bunch of other people like when they start one, they have some cool name for their domain name and site, and I was like, all right, well, no, this sounds cool, Developer Side Quests. Um, and then after a while, I thought, I could probably use the site name for something else. And I keep hearing people talk about a personal brand. So let me change up the domain. I'll use that domain for something else. And then my blog will be, whatever it is now. And so then I thought, all right, cool. So now I can use this name for something else. And then a few months go by. And so then um, ended up thinking, oh, hey, here's this podcast idea that I've kind of wanted to do for a while. It's talking about side projects, and part of the reason for that is me on a personal note, I would like to blog more and write more about things that I learned, and like, hey, I worked on this thing and it took me a week to learn this one small thing that you can't really find online, but actually sitting down and writing, that takes some more effort than I put down, because we're all adults, we all have lives, that whole thing. And so I thought, hey, it's a smart idea, just talking about this stuff in a podcast form instead of having to write. That'll be way easier. Now it turns out I was wrong. It's probably the same amount of work, but that's how it at least led me to this whole to that whole process.
I do think that podcasting can be a little bit easier. I think that, and this is probably the same for blogging, I think that people tend to make it harder than it has to be. Like, as an editor, the thing that I always get is like, oh, you can take out the ums and the likes and stuff, right? And to me, it's just like, I guess. And the reason I say that is in traditional editing, there's like the rule of two. For every 1 minute of audio, it takes 2 minutes to edit. And when you have to go back and like clear out ums and realign audio and make sure that it doesn't sound like there's really long pauses, that time like quadruples. Like it takes, like I track time in my edits, and the people who don't mind there being ums and things like that in there, it takes like maybe 2 hours to do an hour podcast. But the people who have like I need all the ums removed, an hour long podcast will take like 5 hours to edit, just because you then have to go and realign things. And I'll catch myself doing it on accident, and I'm like, no, we're done here. So and then like a lot of the things with hosting and marketing and to bring this back to the idea of side questing, is this a hobby that you would like to eventually become a main quest, or is it something that you're kind of happy with it just being a little side project? You don't really care if it grows or anything like that?
Uh, I haven't put enough thought into it to make a decision. Like I enjoy talking to people, and getting different perspectives on different things. Even talking to people about the exact same topic, everyone's going to have their own different thoughts and where they come from. And part of just doing the show is the excuse to do that. And then every so often, the other excuse is to ask them a very specific question that I just want to know that I couldn't find online easily. But doing that kind of show, I don't really know. Like I know that as it stands today, I don't put enough effort into it to definitely make it something that would be like a main quest. And exactly what you said about the audio editing. When I started, I did go and start removing a bunch of ums and the pauses, and for a show like mine that takes a half an hour of audio to record it, yeah, it was taking like an hour and a half to do the full on editing. So since then, I've definitely relaxed those rules by a ton. But um, one of the things that I've told people is I would love at a minimum to get the show large enough that I have some sponsors, so that then I can pay other people to do the edits and the transcribing and that stuff type of stuff. So I think that part would be the minimum of what I want to at least grow the show to.
And that's kind of something that I did want to talk about a little bit was the idea of, for those that are familiar with Pit, you'll know that Pit is my side hustle, but it is also my business. It is my brand. Every time I've tried to veer away from the brand, it just brought me back. So I'm kind of just accepted it. But the thing for me is, like, I still go to a day job. I still work a 9 to 5, and then I come home and I work another, 7 to midnight-ish kind of thing. So it's toll. It's like it takes a toll on you after a while. What is your thought on making that transition from like side quest to main quest? Are you someone who is more risk averse, or are you like, sometimes you just gotta leap, so I'm leaping? Like, is that kind of where you find yourself in this?
Yeah, kind of. So my approach to things has kind of always been um, well, I guess it's time to make that leap. I'll do it now, and we'll see where that leads. So I have been like working on this project. Well, I guess a side quest for on and off. But in total, it's been about 6 years in total that I've been trying to create
Oh, wow.
this thing that I eventually want to turn it into a business. And I keep pushing myself because, yeah, I mean, the thing about creating this is that I'm having to learn so much. So like last year, I had to learn a lot of embedded style software development, and what comes with that is also a bunch of learning electronics, and that's a lot of stuff that I don't have any background in. I didn't learn any of that stuff in school when I went to college and that kind of stuff, and so that really slowed me down. And so I'm really trying to just get to that point where I have that minimum viable product sort of thing that I can try and start selling it and making this product. And so I keep joking with my wife like, hey, what if I just quit today and start that side project as a business? And eventually, she's at least the rational head in the relationship, because she says, no, like you've said, Al, you need to get to a point where you at least have a working enough prototype, because and like she said, I've said that because I really want to just sit down and spend all of my time working on this project and getting it to a fully fleshed out product. But if I lose a month or two because I have to completely learn this other technology, that's something. And so that's where I kind of have to keep weighing things. Like, do I want to um, take that gamble? And so far, I have decided not to take that gamble. But I'm really hoping soon that maybe a year from now, I'll be finally at that point where I can do that.
That's really cool that you're able to plan out your exit strategy. I think that's something that I have not quite been able to figure out just yet. And a lot of that is due to my own, I don't want to say waffling of ideas, but I'm an ideas person. I come up with an idea, I play with that idea until I'm bored with it, and then I'm on to the next idea. That is why, to me, a podcast is so great, because I get to talk to people on a weekly basis about the different things that they have, and all it does is spark ideas and makes me want to think about, oh, I could do this, and oh, that this would be great. But in doing that, I do tend to, I guess, delay my own escape from cubicle captivity, which is, I think, the way I phrased it. And I'm trying to remember where I got that phrasing from. I don't remember.
Yeah, I mean, um, like you said, it is scary to just take that leap because you have zero security if you go off and start your own thing, and at least having some runway to go with is at least helpful, right? Like I'm sure, like you said, you want to escape that cubicle captivity. Like someday you probably will take that leap and make productivity and tech your full thing, but it's like you need to believe in it enough at that point that you can, right? Like if you were to just say tomorrow you wake up and you say, yeah, I'm done, I'm not going into work, I'm just productivity and tech all the way, like there would probably be a ton of work that you need to do, like, but if instead you wait another year, maybe it'll be easier. But at the same time, I'm sure we, both of us are probably in that same boat. We just keep telling ourselves that, right? Like, oh, let's just wait a little bit longer. It'll be better sooner.
Well, I think the other side of that is when you feel like you have time, you will take as much time as possible. That's something that I'm trying to remember the name of the study, but they showed like if you gave someone 15 minutes to do a task and then you gave someone else of equal ability 5 minutes to do the task, they still tend to get the task done. And I think that happens when you are side questing with the idea of it becoming your main quest. And for those that don't know, like we've been saying side quest and main quest in this a lot. Side quest, side hustle, main quest, your main hustle, day job, full time job, whatever. Like, I'm hoping that we haven't been confusing people for the last 15 minutes, but with that, like, I feel like even though, and I know this podcast isn't about me, it's about you, but I feel like because I have that security blanket and I say, oh, well, I can do that anytime, then it doesn't get done because, again, I can do that anytime. Where if I didn't have that security blanket, if it was like, okay, you've got to make X number of dollars by the end of the month or you lose your house, you're going to be doing a lot more to make, sales happen, to push your product to wherever you're trying to get it to. And I do wonder if people should jump before they feel comfortable doing so.
Yeah, that's probably like a good point. Like just, when you're like 90% of the way to that comfort zone or that the point where you think would be comfortable, that's probably a good time to really push. I mean, there's so much business literature out there, like for starting a new business, you gotta, do all of these, growth hacks, I think is the phrase, right? Do all these things to kind of take those shortcuts, because that mindset, I think, with starting a business is the grow as quickly as possible, because you have no idea how long you'll actually be in business, and it makes sense from that perspective. But and I've definitely been in the comfort zone of, oh, I have plenty of time, because like I said, it's been 6 years for me and I keep doing this on and off, and I just took a month off of the project because I wanted to learn something else that I think will be useful. And so I bought a book and I read through it, did tutorials. And, um, and if I had to live off of this, that's not something I would have done, probably. And maybe that's for the better, right? Like maybe the project itself, the end product will be better because of that. I have no idea. I won't know probably for years.
Well, and like you just said, having to growth hack your way into a viable business, I don't know if that's a sustainable model. Also, it can be frustrating at times. As someone where I'm a not a solopreneur because my wife helps with a lot of with some of the editing that comes in, and we share some of those responsibilities. But she'll be the first to tell you that a lot of that does kind of fall on me because I am the productivity and tech person. Like she's like, I'm okay playing in the backfield, but that means that when it comes to finding podcast clients and marketing clients and doing like all these consultations and connecting and promoting my brand, quote unquote, like that's all me. Like that's me taking every waking hour that I have that's not devoted to my wife and my daughter. And like, I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched a movie. Like I can't tell you the last time I sat down and watched like binge watched a TV series. It takes me like 5 times as long to do those things, and I'm okay with it because I enjoy doing this. But at the same time, like I've definitely had to, call in sick for my day job because I'm too tired to move, and it wasn't because I stayed up all night. It's because I pulled late hours for about 2 months. So I guess I'm saying all of that to kind of tangent my way into a question, and that question would be, do you ever feel like your side quest gets in the way of your main quest?
Oh yeah, easily. I mean, uh, something that I've kind of thought a few times is, if I were to look at my career like as the type of person who has no interest in starting my own business, um, what things would I be doing differently? Like the stuff that I do in my day job is very different from the stuff I'm doing in my side quest. It's still software related. There's software development, but the kind of stuff that I'm making and working on is not, or it has very little intersection of the technologies that I'm using during my day job. And I kind of wonder, would I be better at stuff if I just focused on the stuff for my day job? And I kind of think that that's the big one, right? And that's the one that maybe kind of pulls me back a little bit because of that. But we're human. We all have a diverse set of interests, and it probably wouldn't be the full-time amount of work improving in that set of skills, but even if it was 50%, right? Even if I hear a coworker talking about some new whiz bang thing, uh, what I would probably at least look into it more than I do now. Uh, and I kind of think that from that perspective, yeah, there's probably that little bit of hindrance. But at the same time, this other thing is also keeping me happy, which is also a bit of uh, a sanity check, right? You probably also want to make sure that the thing you're doing is keeping you happy and keeping you going to complete your main quest. So yeah, there's probably a bit of both. I'm always of the mindset that there's pros and cons to everything, and so when you start saying one thing is uh, definitely harmful to the other, I mean maybe not always. In some situations, yeah, definitely, but I will say that it's probably the opposite is probably more true. That main quest does also do a lot of harm to my side quests because there are times where maybe something is chaotic at work and I was planning to come home and do something specific for my side quest, but I ended up working a 9-10 hour day, and now I'm just really tired and I don't want to do anything, and I just want to play with the dog or sit down and watch a TV show that I have recorded. And that one I have to say probably happens more often, which is one of those times when I think to myself, wow, I really want to get this side quest more. And so it's kind of pushes me more, I gotta say.
So one of the things that I'm actually working on a talk about is this theory that I have that if you embrace, or if you as an employer embrace your employees' side quests and allow them to explore ways to develop those side quests, they have the opportunity to come back and benefit the employer. And a good example of this is I'm a Python developer and I've been developing in Python for 6-7 years now. And one of the things that when I got into this marketing job was we got Max, we got a little bit more on autonomy, and we had the keys to the castle in terms of our web presence and our like marketing customer acquisition side of business. So with that, I was able to start building different automations for processes that my team had previously been doing for years manually, and saving the team itself countless hours. There's an example. We acquired a company, and in that acquisition, we had to add, some like 8,000 products to our online catalog, and everyone was like, "Oh, this is gonna take forever. It's gonna da 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 da." And with just a little bit of, I think it was literally like less than 100 lines of code, I was able to download all of their all of their images, index the entire like list of items that we were uploading, upload them to our system, add images for them, and set them live in our system in about 4 hours. And they were like, "Oh, we thought this was going to take weeks." And it's so interesting that I never would have had the ability to do that thing had my boss not been okay with me, every once in a while watching a video from PyCon or watching some conference talk or tinkering around and even just giving me the green light to say like, "Hey, I think there's a better way to do this. I've played around with it before. Just give me a shot." And that's a good thing to think about when you're a manager, but also, has there been any way that you as a side quester have been able to take some of your talents and apply them to your main quest?
Let's see. I'm trying to think of of some of this. Yeah. So I oh so I don't know if this counts for answering your question, but I'm going to say it anyway because I like the answer. Um, so we had a particularly bad weekend a while ago at work where we had some issues with the site. There was a lot of load, that kind of stuff, and so it was a very learning weekend because we learned a lot of stuff about our system. But one of the things that we had realized was we don't test performance types of things or really like a load testing type of stuff. We don't have enough of that that we do within our team or organization, and so I just kind of took that away of like, huh. Like I know that there are a lot of solutions out there. We could just buy something from a company and then use it and set it up, that whole thing. But out of curiosity, if I were to make one of these, how would that look? And so I ended up just kind of making something and sat down for over a couple of days, spread out throughout the time. Ended up making something that would essentially hammer a system with a bunch of requests to the web page and that kind of stuff. And um, so I wasn't planning on telling anyone at work like, "Hey, I made this thing that we can use." I told some coworkers like, "Hey, cool, check this out." Proud of myself, that whole deal. But then talking to my manager, and she mentioned, "Hey, this is the thing that we're looking at, but it's going to take some time." So I mentioned like, "Hey, well, they have this thing," and it like is something that we're going to be trying out. By the time this episode goes out, I think we'll have tried it, so we'll see if it actually works or not. I haven't been able to use it completely at scale, but it's kind of one of those cases where I made this thing out of my own curiosity, and it definitely helped the business to agree, or hopefully will help the business. I'll know within a few days.
That being said, this is a disclaimer. Do not DDoS your company without permission. That sounds like a good way to lose your job.
Exactly. I do not in any way condone doing that without permission. And I believe I put that disclaimer in the code on GitHub. It's like try to make sure that that was nice and detailed toward the top. Uh, but yeah, yeah.
So normally I don't talk about gear and things like that, but since we are talking about the developer side quest, I was it multi-potentialite monk, which meant that I use my hands and I'm more concerned about the journey than the destination. So I'm going to ask you a couple of rapid fire questions. You ready?
Okay, let's do this.
All right, if you're any D&D character, what character class are you?
Oh, a monk. When I
A
was a
monk?
teenager, I was always playing the monk. I always loved martial arts stuff. Easily that.
What race?
Usually human. Just kind of the simple, easy one.
And alignment.
Oh, trying to remember lawful neutral.
Okay, okay. So when you are faced with a problem, whether in game or in life, would you rather roll for initiative or make some type of observation check?
Oh, roll for initiative. Easily. I'm always the jump at it kind of guy. Like I just want to get at the problem. And I know, like deep somewhere inside of me, I know that's probably not the smartest of ideas, but yeah, that's just my default answer right there. Roll for initiative.
Awesome. If you're min maxing your stats, what's your highest level stat?
Well, as a monk, it's probably going to be dexterity because that's the the whole thing that they're good at. Now, that's in a fake world. In real life, probably dexterity because just growing up, I've always had horrible dexterity, like just on a personal note.
And then your lowest stat.
Lowest stat, strength. I'm not a tough guy. Oh no, Constitution. Let's go with Constitution. I'm not a tough guy.
And last question, what do you always keep in your bag of holding?
A pen. Always have to be ready to write something down. I guess the easy answer would be a cell phone, but let's go with the pen.
I like it. All right, so this has been a great conversation. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. I did more talking than I would prefer, but I have to let everyone listening know that the show is only just beginning. In a few seconds, Al's going to tell us where we can find him, and then we can jump into the after show where I am going to once again become his guest on a brand new show that he has not even thought up of yet. And he's going to grill me with some questions. And if you want to hear that, you have to become a premium member. The premium membership for Productivity and Tech supports the podcast. As I mentioned before, Pitt is a business. We do make money helping other developers do things, but that doesn't mean that we always have the expendable income to invest in equipment and hosting fees and help every once in a while. We just found out we had like thousands of people who have been trying to listen to the old podcast feed. So we are actually working on restoring that, and that's not a one person job. So I'm actually recruiting some help, and I got to pay the people. So your contributions help. But you're not just getting that happy feeling knowing that you helped. You also get access to the premium group inside of our public and free Slack workspace. And you might be saying, okay, so what? Well, you also get a direct line to me where I make sure that I keep up with what you're doing at least once a week. So if you've ever wanted to just pick my brain on productivity or technology or just know what my thoughts are on something related to business or podcasting or whatever, or you just enjoy this show and want to support it and see it continue to grow, I do have some plans for it in the future, but we're not going to talk about that just yet. Our premium members who are already premium members already know what some of that stuff is. They got a taste of it last week. But if you want to see Pitt continue to grow, you have to become a premium member. Head over to productivityintech.com/memberships and sign up today. It's $10 a month or $100 a year. You will not regret hanging out with some of the awesome fellow premium members, as well as making a step towards becoming more productive. So, now that I've said all of that, Al, last question. There is a cave, a village, and a brawl out in the valley. Which one do you go to first? And to do what?
The village. Because you got to figure out what else is going on in that area. There's not just the three. It's not just the village, the cave, and the brawl. There's some other stuff. You got to find the cool things to hit up.
All right, and if more people want to find the cool things that are happening with you, how would they do that?
So the easiest way, you could find me on Twitter. I'm at ProgrammerAl. And then you can also find me in my other podcasts. So we've got the Developer Side Quests, which is just me running. And then I feel bad because I completely forgot to mention the other one that I co-host, MCU Rewind, where we talk about Marvel movies and TV shows and that kind of stuff.
Oh man, that sounds like a show that is right up our audience's alley. Unfortunately, not me, because again, I haven't sat down and watched. I haven't watched a movie since like Spider-Man Into the Multiverse. So that tells you how much of a movie fan I am. Not one at all. All right, so thank you once again, Al, for being a guest on the podcast. I had a great time.
Oh, same here. I loved it. Thank you for having me.
And also, if you want to hear more about productivity in tech, or if you're a developer or designer or other person in tech that wants to get into podcasting but needs a little help, then let me know. Go to productivityintech.com, sign up for a free consultation. I always tell people, even if you can't afford an editor, you can always afford a little bit of free advice. And I am more than happy to give that to you. That's over at productivityintech.com. And while you're there, sign up for the newsletter as well, where I dole out a little bit more of that advice. And enough of all of those spiels, I'd like to thank Nadira Mawali for the use of his music, A Hustler in Spite of Myself, for the intro and outro music. And of course, if you want to reach out to us online, you can follow me directly at KJAY Miller on all the things. And you can follow Productivity in Tech on Twitter at prod_in_tech. I've been Jay Miller. For myself, Al, and Productivity in Tech, I hope we've been productive. Talk to you next week.